This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Episode 200 of the roller coaster will soon be here, and this is your chance to be part of the fun. I'm going to be recording this episode with coaches and listeners just like you. If you want to be part of the fun, head over to nectargrowth.com. Sign up for free and RSVP for the November 18th event. All of the details will be under the events tab. I can't wait to see you there. What are you waiting for? Come join us. You know you're worth it. The storms in our inner world are reflected in the chaos of our outer world. Often, we work hard to calm the chaos, just trying to fix things, and then everything will be all right, right? And then when it feels like you're losing the battle, treading water and barely keeping your head up, you double down, you work harder to fix and make things right. And eventually, you realize that your outer world, it mirrors your inner world. And to find your calm, you need to turn within. Joining me today is Emily Harman to share her story of finding inner peace, happiness, and joy from within. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Lucy. What an introduction, because you can see I'm smiling as you're reading that, because it's like, oh my gosh, how true is that?
But that was exactly what I went through, is that my outer world was in chaos. And, I kept trying to fix that outer world. And it was really when everything came crashing down that I realized that it was me that I had to fix.
Yeah.
But yeah. I was in my mid-40s when it happened. So maybe we could start off with you sharing your journey.
Okay. Yeah, I wish I was in my mid-40s when it happened. It was probably more like mid-50s, but it's better to happen than not to have it happen, I think.
And that's the gift.
Yeah, that's the gift. So my story, just a little bit about me. I grew up, I was a really good basketball player, and my dad would always tell me, good game. I could have scored 40 points in a game. Good game. Now, you remember that time when you weren't right, you should have gone left. And so, that started at an early age, trying to please him, please men, and to always be improving, pushing and improving. And so when I look back, I can see that I think that's how it started, how I reacted towards him when he was, had good intentions. He was really trying to help me be a really good basketball player. Well, fast forward to when it was time to go to college, basketball helped me get into a lot of colleges, my skills at playing basketball. And I ended up deciding to go to the Naval Academy because I wanted my education to be first, not my basketball. And, it definitely a great college. So I ended up graduating in the 6th class of women from the Naval Academy. And I ended up working for the Navy for the next 34 years after I graduated, either as an officer, some of it was as an officer, and some of it was as a civilian. And I pushed and I worked hard and I overachieved and I made it up to the top of, pretty high up, like the equivalent of a 2-star admiral as a civilian. But none of that pushing and achieving was really making me happy. Something was missing and I wasn't really sure what it was. I also went through a couple of divorces and I had some issues with my children. My son is an alcoholic. He's 5 years sober. My daughter, developed anxiety and, just all those things going on in my life. And I put everyone and everything first before me. I was helping my son get counseling, and my daughter, and helping him with his alcoholism. But I didn't really focus on me. And it wasn't, so then finally I just decided, look, I'm going to retire. And I called my retirement from working for the Navy at graduation, because everyone was saying, Emily, you're 56, you're too young to retire. We all have this idea and image in our mind of what retirement is, right? You're really old, you're sitting on the couch, watching TV or playing golf. And I'm like, no, I want to graduate onto something bigger and better. I want to go find and do my soul's purpose, which I feel is coaching and helping other people. And so when I did that, I was so excited to finally be able to put myself first. My kids were grown and everything. Within a month after I retired or graduated, my daughter called me and said, Mom, Dad has cancer. And so I stopped doing what I needed to do for me, and I helped take care of him. We were divorced. He had a fiance. My daughter, she was taking care of him, and then my daughter was too, but he became paralyzed in both arms from the cancer after 2 weeks of his diagnosis. And it was just really bad, and he needed a lot of help. And I watched him pass away 5 months later with regrets. He had been verbally abusive to me and my children. He never retired. I saw he was 64. I saw he worked for the Navy too. And I saw his files, and he had all these files on retirement and what he was going to do when he retired. But he never got to do that. And I know he died with regrets. And that led me to decide, I want to coach and I want to create a life I love living. And that's what I want to coach others on. What if your retirement was really a graduation and you really did that inner work and created a life that you love living, instead of just going with the circumstances and having the circumstances beat you down? It's probably the same thing that you went through. So I did that inner work and learn how to listen to my inner voice and to find my passion. And now when I get up in the morning, I'm like excited. I'm not like dreading anything. I love my life. So that's a little history of me, where it started and how it's where I am now.
I can definitely relate to your story of putting everyone first. It's something, for me, I think I just thought that's the way, that's what a wife and mother should do.
Yeah.
My husband had a busy career. I worked, but his job came first because he made more money. I mean, who's going to argue with that? And our youngest son, he was early on was diagnosed with quite a severe learning disability that involved dyslexia and other things. And a lot of who I was, a lot of what I was doing was put into being that wife and mother. And for me, I think, and then that, that inner struggle that you have, I always call it the whisper. The universe is calling to you that, hey, wait a second, you're supposed to be doing something else.
Yeah, but I was too busy.
I was pushing it aside. And,
Yeah.
and my analogy is the universe will whisper and eventually it'll start shouting. And if you don't listen to it, it's just going to hit you on the head with a 2x4. Well, I'm a slow learner, and it took me getting hit with that 2x4 before I even started to consider who I was and what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it is about creating that life that you don't need a vacation from.
Yeah. And everyone, and we dream of that. We think of that and we're like, but I can't do that but what if you could? What if, we can't see possibilities because we're not opening our mind to the infinite, to, that there are more possibilities. We let our limiting beliefs hold us back. And I was just busy all the time, busy achieving. And now I can look back and see that, I was saying, oh, my son, he's an alcoholic and he's like drowning his feelings in alcohol. But I was drowning my feelings by being busy. I was a busyholic.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see that. I didn't know how to slow down. I didn't know how to be. I thought that when I retired or when I graduated, my life was going to just automatically change. And I was going to be able to I would have time to do all this working out and stuff. But my hyperachiever saboteur in my mind just started again creating. I had a huge to-do list that boss Emily made for me until I really learned how to not push and how to go with the flow and how to still accomplish, but through ease and flow and not push energy. I never knew it was possible.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things that I've really contemplated over the last 18 months is this, call it global pause that we've been on, that we're still somewhat caught in here in Canada. It took away all of that busyness in our lives.
Mhm.
Suddenly, you couldn't hide behind your kids' activities. You couldn't hide behind all of these things. And I think it started to create an unrest. And I am hopeful in believing that it's the beginning of a turning point for humanity.
Yeah, I'm hopeful about that too. I mean, Bruce, I retired in May 2019. Bruce died in December, and then the pandemic hit in March. So with him dying and that changing my attitude about things, and then the pandemic, I can see gifts and opportunities in both of those. I mean, it sucks, but I always try to look for the positive out of anything that happens.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely, the initial, we just need to do this for 2 weeks. And here we are 18 months later and, possibly facing another round of lockdowns. We've actually been able to create our lives that we don't, I mean, sure, we still want to travel. We still want to see the world. But I find that our day-to-day lives are enjoying those moments that you want. It's something as simple as instead of drinking a morning coffee, sitting at your desk reading emails, just and you know what, anytime I do that, the coffee never gets finished. It's usually half cold, half finished. So I started, okay, no, after I get ready, I'm going to go make myself a coffee or a tea, and I'm going to sit on my front porch and I'm just going to watch the world. I mean, I live in a rural setting. So I have trees and I watch the squirrels and the birds and all of that. But there was a time that I wouldn't have thought, oh, I'm just too, I would have thought I'm just too busy for that.
Right.
Who has time to do that?
Right. I would have thought I'm too busy. And if I tried it, I wouldn't be able to sit there and enjoy it because I'd be thinking about all the stuff that I was needed to do. Now I'm able to be more in the moment, just enjoy it, like you said.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that naturally. I had to work. I had to intentionally practice it and then I can do that now. And it's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, I still get caught up in, sometimes it's okay, but really, if I've got an extra 10 minutes, then maybe I should be doing, this for my podcast or doing, and it's like, no, that's always there's always going to be something on my to-do list that I need to get done. But you get you fill your cup back up by taking those moments where you just get to exhale.
I know.
What were some of the tools that you use? Because for me, and it's crazy because I used to, shamefully, I used to make fun of people that meditated and did yoga and stuff like that because I thought it was all like, tree hugging stuff. But it's all part of what I do: journaling, meditation, yoga. Yeah. Those are all things that I use. What are some of the tools that you've adopted into your day-to-day routine?
Well, the same thing with me about, meditating and stuff. And I had a coach, I invested in quite a few coaches that I worked with. So I had a coach that said, well, how she wanted to help me with be. I said, I want to be, and I want to learn to identify my feelings. Like, I'm not good at naming my feelings. Somebody might ask how I feel about something, and I couldn't tell them. I could tell them what I think about it, but I don't know what I feel or where I feel it in my body. I mean, who cares? Now I understand why that's important to figure out and to know. But she said, well, how long can you meditate? And she had options like how much of time during the day can you spend? 15 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. I wanted to say an hour because of my hyperachiever saboteur in my mind, but I said, all right, 15 minutes. And then she wanted me to do it for 40 days straight. And every other week when I'd meet with her, she'd say, what day are you on? I say, well, 2. Why? You don't understand. I'm really busy. And this is during the pandemic, right? I don't have kids at home. It's just me and my dog. It's during the pandemic. I'm busy. I've got a lot to do. And I didn't get it until I got it, until I did those 40 days straight. And then I realized, there's no other way to start my morning but to do that and to journal. And when you journal and you observe and you reflect, you are using both sides of your brain, the thinking and, the right and the left brain, and it helps you process it better. And like you said, the journaling and the meditating, those things changed my life. And working with a coach to better understand and see my blind spots and my limiting beliefs and my patterns.
Yeah, limiting beliefs is a big, big part, because there are all those stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we believe them. It's the shit that we believe. Yeah.
Right.
And, for me, when I hit my crisis point, I kind of knew some of this stuff, but I didn't know. I never understood things like imposter syndrome. I'd never even heard the words. But when I started to hear things like imposter syndrome, limiting beliefs, self-doubt, when I really started to hear and understand what they were, that helped me put words to what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Because I'd feel, but I didn't know why I felt that way. Or I didn't know exactly what it was I was feeling. Like you kind of feel cruddy.
Right.
And you beat up on yourself, but you don't have that understanding of why and where that's coming from.
Right. The awareness.
Yeah. And now I'm at the point, and you're probably similar, that it almost becomes the process of, once you gain awareness or insight on something that you're doing or how you're thinking about something, just having that awareness sometimes is all you need to start creating the change. At the beginning, that wasn't the case.
Right.
It was, you had to do that inner work. You had to dive deep. You had to pull up all of that stuff and air it out. But now when I become aware of something, you're like, oh, okay, let's move on.
Right. I now I can practice Tai Chi for, an hour in an hour and a half class. And you're kind of moving slow. And it's like, I would have thought, this is ridiculous. I don't have time for this. Now I love Tai Chi. Another example of how it manifested in my life is, my dad likes to play the piano, and it used to be that I'd go over and listen to him and be thinking of my to-do lists, and, couldn't really enjoy the music. And one day, without even thinking about it, I noticed that I had been listening for 30 minutes and kept asking him to play more, and I was enjoying it. And so those are just some things that, showed up in my life. The other day, I was in a session with one of my coaches, and something kind of triggered me. And then I went and ate a whole box of cookies, and I noticed that afterwards, not always right when I was doing it, but afterwards I realized that is actually my way. And sometimes, I'm not heavy, I'm not overweight. What I do is I don't keep the cookies in my house. My dog walker had given them to me, and I ate the whole tin. But that was my way of avoiding what I was feeling. What I could have done was felt it and journaled about it. And that's how you make progress. That's how you get to better understand yourself. But I caught myself, and the next time I felt something like that, I journaled. So we can kind of be the observer of ourselves.
And I think that's part of the journey, is that you're able to separate and become that observer. Mm-hmm. And, you also talked about being present. That the ability to remain present is a muscle.
Mhm.
And, at the beginning, it might last seconds,
Right.
but you keep working at it, and eventually being present makes, it actually makes time collapse on itself.
Yeah.
When you're in flow, when you're involved in whatever task it is, and time seems to move without any awareness of time, that's when
Yeah.
you're living in that moment. And that's when that whatever it is you're doing at the time, then you need to do more of that.
Yes, yes. One of the coaching programs I did was called Positive Intelligence. And you've heard me refer to my saboteurs. I mean, the way, and I coach on this, but the way that it's coached is, we all have a judge saboteur in our mind. The judge judges other people. It judges ourselves. We're all familiar with the inner critic, and it judges situations as good or bad. I got laid off today. That's bad. But we could pause and think of, well, what good could come out of that? What's the gift or the opportunity? We could go to the sage part of our brain. And then, my other top saboteurs are the hyperachiever. So I notice I'm not saying I am a hyperachiever. No, I have a hyperachiever saboteur. So the hyperachiever, a pleaser, and restless. So, and I never knew about the restless until I took his assessment. And I see how that has shown up in my life, because I start a project and then I move to another one, then I move to another one, and then I might need to go do my dishes. It's kind of, I thought I was ADHD, but you can also look at it as it's like a restless saboteur. I might go to the gym and be doing a certain routine and say, nope, this is boring. I need to do something else. And so I never quite finish. And so I catch myself now as the observer, and I can switch to that sage mode of curiosity and self-compassion and compassion for others. And, in a much quicker way. So that has really helped me get more, he calls it mentally fit. If you're not physically fit, it, you climb up a hill and you're out of breath. If you're not mentally fit, you're stressed and anxious a lot. And you don't understand why. And you think that, well, that's because life is like this. I can't fix it. But you can make some changes in yourself if you work at it, if you want to, if you decide to, that.
Yes. And you said that one of the things that you're doing now is you're coaching other people,
Mhm.
and you're leading the Onward movement. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, I started the Onward movement back in April, right when the pandemic hit of 2020. And basically it's a Facebook group. I want it to be a group where we get together and do retreats and stuff, but we're not there yet. We do hold, Zoom calls and coffee chats different times, but it's basically a group where we all are looking to, we either are living a life of our dreams or we're looking to do that. So I say the Onward movement is all about releasing the fear of judgment, what other people might think. And so that we can be our authentic selves, and we can confidently pursue the life of our dreams. Like some people might judge you, why are you retiring early? Why are you doing that? Just because you love it? You can't do a job that just because you love it. It's got to be something that's higher paid, or you have to achieve, or you need to go for the next promotion. What if you didn't? What if you could create something where you're happy every day? And so that's what I encourage people to do in the Onward movement. I host the Onward podcast, which is all about facing adversity, moving forward, and discovering ourselves along the way. And then, I do that mental fitness coaching, and I also have a program called the Onward Accelerator Program. And it's basically, coaches on that self-aware, a lot of the things that we've talked about. Some of my clients are people who are getting ready to graduate or retire in a couple of years, and they want to be intentional about their graduation. They want to really get more in touch with themselves and figure out, well, what do they want to do? Other people are, have other visions for their life that they would really love, and they want to move towards them, but they are stuck or something's holding them back. And so that's what I help them with.
Yeah, that fear of judgment. I think that catches so many of us
Mhm.
because we're afraid of being alone.
Yes.
But what I found is that when you become that authentic self and you speak your truth, yes, you will lose people,
It's
but
okay.
you will
Mhm.
also find many more people. The people that you lose, they were never really on your side. And yeah, it can be harsh because those people are family.
Mhm.
But the people that you find, they're the ones that will lift you up. They're the ones that will sing your praises. They are the ones that will help you become the best version of yourself.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, you really got a part of my transformation was being in masterminds, hanging around other people that had the same vision for their life, and we're going through that transformation or had already gone through it. And I just can't be around people that want to try to hold me back.
Yeah. And, when we're surrounded by the people that see the possibilities, then we can see it for ourselves.
Yes.
But if you're constantly surrounded with those people that are of that closed mindset, that don't look at the possibilities and think that you have to follow society's checklist of how to be happy, those aren't the people that you want in your life anyways.
Oh, and I just worked with a coach for 2 hours today. One of my coaches, I have a few, and she just helped me with some things that I'm working on in my business. And she just helped me see things that I hadn't seen before, move forward. I would have not have figured some of these things out on my own or by reading a book. No way. It has the changes, I do have that hyperachiever saboteur. I have achieved a lot in my life. But with coaches, I have achieved so much more in the past 2 years than I would have ever been able to do on my own.
Well, simply by engaging in a coach or joining a community
Yeah.
of like-minded individuals, that's not doing it alone. But I
Right.
think there's a lot of the time, certainly for myself, is that I didn't want to admit that I needed help. That's why I got so far down the hole, was
Yes.
because I couldn't admit that I needed help because I was always seen as the strong one. Well, how does the strong one, how do they possibly ask for help?
Yes. That's one of the mottos I have a manifesto for the Onward movement. And one of them is, we see you, we hear you, and there's space for you. And another one is onwarders. I call the people in the Onward movement onwarders. We ask for help and we help others. And so we do posts like, when have you asked for help recently? How can you help others? Because it is not a sign of weakness to ask for help.
Definitely. That's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, I know.
It's a hard,
I
it's a
don't
hard
always,
one.
I'm not always the best at asking for help too, but it's our ego that gets in the way.
It is. It's part of the journey. It's part of the lessons.
Yeah.
Now, Emily, can you just share any sort of final thoughts of wisdom that you'd like to share? And then also how people can get in touch with you, find your podcast?
Mhm. Sure. I think my last words of wisdom are really, really be an observer and observe where your discontent comes from, where you're not quite feeling, because sometimes it's like subtle. So you got to spend that time kind of reflecting and noticing, oh, I noticed that this isn't bringing me joy, or notice that this part of my life is draining me. Do I have to keep living this way, or could there be another way to live? Could I create a life that I really love living? And when part of you says no, just remember that a part of you already asked the question, could I, and is looking to do that. So which one are you going to go with? The one that keeps holding you back, the part of you that holds you back, holds you in your comfort zone, or the part that says, you could do something different. You only have one life. How do you want to live it? Yeah, but I'm not listening to that. I'm going with this part of me. That's a decision. And you may not know exactly how you're going to get to where you want to get, but you've made a decision that you're going to. And then you look at what you can do today with what you have. How can you take steps towards what you want? Because as you start taking baby steps, you start building momentum. As you start building momentum, the universe realizes you mean it. And the universe starts, people start coming into your lives that can help you get to where you want to go, especially as your awareness increases. So you can find me and my podcast and everything about my coaching programs and the Onward movement on my website, emilyharman.com. It's HARMAN.com.
If you're looking at connecting with Emily, make sure you check out the show notes. I'm going to have all of the links in there. And Emily, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story.
Thank you, Lucy. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.